Hello, I'm Jeremy, and welcome to another episode of RevUs Reviews. Alex Winter is most famous for playing Bill S. Preston Esquire in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and the newest Bill and Ted film still in development, Bill and Ted Face the Music. But very few people know of his bizarre, surreal, and hilarious sketch show from the 90s known as The Idiot Box, mainly because it only has 6 episodes. However, unlike Police Squad, which was canceled because the network thought the audience couldn't adjust to the rapid-fire jokes, The Idiot Box was canceled because Alex Winter and the other 2 creators of The Idiot Box, Tom Stern and Tim Burns, decided to accept a deal from 20th Century Fox to write and direct the subject of this video, the 1993 surreal comedy, Freaked. Alex Winter plays Ricky Coogan, a famous actor who strikes a product deal with EES, Everything Except Shoes. After he accepts, he flies to the country of Santa Flan with his buddy Ernie. While there, Coogan falls in love with a protester named Julie who hates Coogan's guts. The 3 stumble onto a freak show ran by Elijah C. Scuggs, who's nuttier than a squirrel's breakfast. He brings the trio into a secret exhibit, which is actually his machine which turns people into freaks, using a bizarre green liquid. He morphs Ernie and Julie together, and turns Ricky into a bizarre half-human, half-gremlin-looking creature. Scuggs then puts Ricky, Ernie, and Julie in his freak shed, where they meet a bizarre cast of characters, including an angry noseman named Nosy, an intelligent worm named Worm, an obnoxious sock puppet man named Sockhead, and the leader of the freaks, Ortiz the dog boy. Julie and Ernie quickly get accustomed to freak life, while Ricky takes a while to adjust. But once he does, Ricky works together with his fellow freaks to escape from Scuggs' bizarre circus. Freaked is one of those films where you never know what's going to happen. Anytime you think one thing is going to happen, the film does either the exact opposite or something completely different. This is especially effective when it comes to the film's comedy, as one of the main principles of comedy is subverting the audience's expectations. And no, I will not spoil any of this movie's jokes, you'll have to watch it for yourself. The comedy also has a Zucker Brothers feel to it, with the absurdity, sight gags, and fast pacing. So if you're a fan of that kind of thing, you might like Freaked. Next, the characters. Ricky Coogan is a very sleazy character, but despite this, he's still pretty likable. Beneath his sleazy celebrity exterior, deep down, Coogan is a good person, and it's interesting seeing the arc he goes through to become more likable. Coogan's buddy Ernie is basically Coogan, but without the likability. That's not to say he's a bad character, though. He's actually pretty funny and works well off the other characters. It's actually pretty funny how he gets morphed with Julie, who's pretty much his complete opposite. It's a really funny, excellent, and well-done dynamic. Julie is a very tough and brash character, but she's also very sensitive and passionate for what she believes in. She isn't really that complex of a character, but she is very likable. Elijah C. Scuggs is by far the weirdest character in this movie. And considering the movie I'm talking about, that's quite a statement. He's like if Randy Quaid was possessed by Beetlejuice. He's incredibly bizarre and eccentric and has a devilish edge to him. He has a lot of really good lines, and he's a really likable, fun villain. And now let's get to the freaks, starting with their leader, Ortiz the dog boy, who's played by, and I'm not even kidding here, Keanu Reeves. Yes, Ted Theodore Logan is in a movie with his best friend. Except unlike Bill and Ted, who are inseparable, Ortiz and Ricky are really argumentative. Ortiz is also the most cliched character in this movie. He's basically the archetype of the jerky leader who's in every post-apocalyptic young adult novel ever. You know, the one that gets angry at the protagonist either because he's a hotshot new guy or because they're in love with the same girl. Ugh. Despite his cliched nature, Ortiz is an okay character. The dog boy gimmick is pretty funny, and his rivalry with Coogan is certainly not the most cliched rivalry. He's just not that interesting of a character. Next is Worm. Next is Worm. Worm was originally a worm scientist who came to Scuggs' circus looking for some specimens. and in return, Skuggs turned him into a giant worm creature. Giant worm. Worm's experience as a scientist makes him a very intelligent and thoughtful character. He's very empathetic as he comforts Ricky and inspires him to use his condition to his advantage. However, like most of the characters in this film, he is very two-dimensional. Aside from Ortiz and Worm, all the freaks are just two-dimensional characters. However, this is done not because of laziness, but more for comedic purposes. Finally, there's Stewie Glock. Stewie is an ugly little boy who follows Ricky around. He's a parody of obnoxious fanboys. However, unlike most fanboy parodies, Stewie is actually a very kind character. While he's obsessed with Rick, he's a very morally conscious character and tries to warn Rick that Zygraph 24, a product advocated by EES, is dangerous. Plus, the film does a lot of funny gags with him. Finally, let's talk about the design of the freaks. It's some of the most creative, interesting designs I've ever seen. Despite how ridiculous the freaks look, their costumes are impressive, unique, and unlike the Garbage Pail Kids, don't look uncanny at all. In conclusion, Freaked is a bizarre, fun, enjoyable and underrated comedy. The film was considered too weird by critics and was pulled from most theaters, and was only shown in Australia and Japan, as well as a handful of US theaters. If you're a fan of The Toxic Avenger or other trauma classics, I recommend checking Freaked out, as it has the same kind of bizarre, surreal humor and characters as those films. If not, I still recommend this film. It's a bizarre, hidden gem of a movie that's honestly really good. That's all for now. Join me next time when I go further into the depths of insanity and surrealism, when I talk about quite possibly the weirdest animated series ever made, 12 Ounce Mouse. See you then!